Hi Year 9, I'm going to share some information with you about English GCSE at Haggerston. In this short presentation, I'll talk you through what you'll study, how you'll be assessed, and what you can expect of your English lessons. The first and very important thing to know about GCSE English is that you'll gain 2 qualifications, one in English language and one in English literature. To gain those qualifications, you'll study towards completing 2 exams for literature and 2 exams for language. So the course is 100% exam assessed. In addition, you'll also complete an assessed speaking and listening presentation in your English class. The example that we follow for both qualifications is AQA. So for your first English literature paper, which is paper 1, it's worth 40% of your overall literature GCSE grade, and it's 64 marks. You'll have 1 hour 45 minutes to answer 2 questions. The first of these will be on a Shakespeare play, and we study Macbeth, and the second will be on the 19th century novel. For this, we study The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. For both questions, you'll be given an extract as a starting point, and you'll also be asked to use your knowledge of a text as a whole to develop your answer. For English Literature Paper 2, it's slightly longer because it's worth 60% of the overall literature GCSE. So you'll have 2 hours and 15 minutes for this. The first thing you'll be assessed on is a modern drama text. We study an Inspector Calls. You get a choice of 2 questions in the exam and you'll answer one of them, and it's worth 30 marks. The second part of the exam is on poetry, and you'll answer 3 poetry questions in total. The first of these will be on the Power and Conflict poems that we've studied in class, and there are 15 poems in total. You'll be assessed on one of these, which will be printed out in the exam. The second and third questions will be on unseen poetry. Now moving on to English language. For language paper 1, you'll be assessed on explorations in creative reading and writing. Just like English literature paper 1, you'll have 1 hour and 45 minutes for the paper, and it's worth 50% of your overall language GCSE grade. Now this paper will feel very familiar because it's very similar to the kinds of things that you've been assessed on for Key Stage 3. There's a reading section, which will be based on a fiction extract, and 4 reading questions. The second half is on writing, and it's worth 40%, so a quarter of your English language GCSE. So it's a really big, important question. You'll be given a choice of 2 tasks and an image. So as you can see on the right-hand side here, you've got 2 questions. Generally, you'll have a description question and a narrative question, and the picture will act as a prompt. For English language paper 2, which is on writers' viewpoints and perspectives, it's a very similar layout to paper 1. The key difference here is that you're looking at non-fiction texts and you're also comparing. So you're going to be given 2 texts instead of 1 here, and one will be written pre-1900 and one will be written post-1900. For the reading sections, again, you'll be given 4 questions, and this time you'll be asked to compare the ideas and the perspectives of the writers that they have on particular topics, such as sports or music or education. For the second half of the paper, just like for language paper 1, you'll be given a 40-mark writing task, except this time you'll be asked to do a piece of non-fiction writing. So you might be, for example, writing a broadsheet newspaper article or writing a speech or a letter. So a bit more generally, what can you expect of your English lessons? Just like for Key Stage 3, you'll be exploring character and themes, you'll be exploring different interpretations of texts, and also be given lots of opportunities to explore political contexts, messages and ideas behind the texts. So for example, when we do an Inspector Calls, we explore the playwright Priestley's views on the older and the younger generations. When we look at war poetry, we might look at the context of patriotism and the critique that writers have of this concept. The last thing that I'd like to draw your attention to, Year 9, is just some top tips about how to prepare for your GCSE early. So there are some ideas there about reading Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde online. You've got a link to the specification and some revision guides there. Any other questions, do get in touch with your teacher or myself.